The F up the play.
You know it. We're starting it. It's a TFP, okay? That's what we're going to start calling it. Or FTP. Sorry, FTP. Excuse me.
It's always important for the guy who came up with the stat to have the letters right that are used to describe
I'm trying to get there.
Oh, yeah, FTPs. I'm hoping we don't this podcast up. That's what I'm hoping. Sorry, one swear in the books here on a Wednesday, joined by my man Paul Burmeister, as usual.
Couple of observations. I'm a little further away. I've been instructed to back up a little bit from you.
Yeah, I know. I like being close to you.
We did not coordinate this.
Black and
Same
blue
color,
day.
blue and black, yeah.
Black and blue day. Well, we're having a long week together. It's our second podcast together. We're doing the Notre Dame spring game on Saturday, so our mind must be in the same place.
By the way, what are you wearing Saturday? Because we don't want to have on the exact same.
Well, actually,
no tie.
No joke. What the hell are we supposed to wear? Are we supposed to wear suits with no tie? Is that what we're supposed to do?
Notre Dame spring game attire in the past has been sport coat.
Sport coat.
Open shirt.
Okay.
You can
maybe
button all the way to the top if you would like.
Okay.
No tie.
Okay, cool. All right. So, I'll do that. We'll figure out colors afterwards. Okay.
Cool.
But, let's not match.
Shouldn't
I don't want to
too much.
Yeah, don't want to be matchy with you. But either way, excited for what we got today with the podcast. We're going to break down the defensive tackles, interior defensive alignment of the draft. I'm going to give you my top guys and give you a quick breakdown of all of them. Special group, so please stay tuned to that. We're going to talk about some relevant news right now in the NFL, and we have Steve Palazzolo.
There you go.
Coming on. I should have lots of practice with Italian names since I was born and raised in North Jersey, and I married a Sicilian girl herself. But we're going to talk to him. Steve is from PFF, does an outstanding job there. I know him and PFF, we disagree on some rankings of players. Great. It's great. Yeah. And I want to have some healthy conversations. There's a lot of value to what they do at PFF with the numbers and all that. But I'm going to, of course, argue that numbers are not the only thing that matters in evaluating a football player. So hopefully we can have a fun discussion and the listeners can enjoy all that.
Some real difference on the Will Grier ranking. And also a little bit on the Dwayne Haskins, who's a story now anyway. So some good stuff to talk about with him.
Definitely.
And Kyler Murray, of course, is in the news, as he normally is. The way I understand it, at the Cardinals facility, they can do this. They can go there. They can't work out when the prospects go there, but they can spend time on the board, continue to get to know them. And he brought his agent. Is this right?
Yes, that is right.
What are you reading into that?
Well, I mean, sirens went off when I saw the agents there. Now, again, I've never been a first pick of any draft or anything like that, so I know I can't put myself totally in the Kyler Murray shoes there as far as this is concerned. But I've been following football for a long, long time, and agents usually do not accompany players on these type of visits. So when I hear something like that, that to me means this conversation's a little farther down the line of we'd like to evaluate you, Kyler, and just still get to know you.
Right.
This tells me we know you. Now we'd like your agent to get here just to talk about some business specifics, whether that's contract details, guaranteeing you're not going to play baseball, all those type of things, so we can pick you number one. So to me, again, the stars seem to keep aligning for Kyler Murray, number one pick to the Arizona Cardinals.
I think an understandable reaction, and tell me if you think this is premature. Yeah. If you're bringing your agent to that meeting at the facility, they've already worked him out there on his own terms on campus, so now it's next level. If you want to read into it that they've made the decision he is the guy because he brought his agent, or they asked for his agent to be there, is that premature?
No, I don't think that's premature. I mean, I think at the very least there's a real good chance. I'm not saying that the Arizona Cardinals, just because of this, are going slam dunk, it's Kyler Murray at 1. But to me, from what you're saying and everything I'm reading, yes, I'm going, okay, it's 90-10 right now, okay? They're going, maybe there's a possibility we don't take them. Maybe something happens and we get blown out of the water by some trade offer for somebody who wants the number one pick. Maybe, but I'm just saying, yes, everything in my knowledge, following the NFL my whole life, is all the people I know and things that go on. This is rare to have the agent there, and it would lead me to believe that it's very real and happening.
And maybe even more rare to have your number one quarterback from last year, Josh Rosen, made unavailable to the media when the offseason program begins.
What did you think about that?
I mean, just like with Kyler showing up to the facility with his agent, it seems like it's pretty obvious where it's going to go. They're going to take him. If they're making Josh Rosen unavailable, seems pretty obvious. They're trying to trade him.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so.
What's the scenario where he wouldn't be?
No, I know. So you're right. I mean, the things I think of, first of all, I thought maybe they'd want to make Josh Rosen available just to get it out of the way, right? Let's just stop this media storm of everybody every day asking us, the Arizona media people who are in control of that, can we talk to Josh? Can we get a comment on the draft? Can we do all of that? So I understand Arizona maybe not wanting to deal with that day one of offseason, the start. You got a new head coach. There's enough going on. They're trying to build their team. Maybe they didn't want to make a spectacle. 2, maybe they know Josh Rosen's not very happy and he might say something they don't like.
That was the maybe I was thinking about.
Right.
Maybe they think he might say something that would hurt his trade value.
Exactly right. Maybe that. Maybe he says something and team goes, well, see, that's the jerk we heard about from UCLA. Ooh, I'm scared of that.
Is that a thing?
It was a thing.
A little bit.
You're being sarcastic? Well, yeah, there were certainly teams.
I remember well.
Yeah, there were certainly teams that were not in love with Josh Rosen's personality. I was not one of those guys. I find it actually kind of refreshing the way he acts. But, yeah, there was teams that were turned off of it. The other thing is this. He probably knows a lot about the situation. His agent probably has talked to teams about trades. So maybe they were afraid to put him up there, too, to where he might just, by mistake let something out of his mouth. Right. About some of the business workings that are going on behind the scenes, whether it's a trade for him or the Kyler Murray aspect or whatever, and the Cardinals don't want to show their hand yet, so they just said, you know what, we don't trust him. Let's just not let him say anything.
Where would you have him ranked in this year's class, the top 5?
Number 2. Right. He would be the number 2 quarterback. Now, again, I don't think, and you asked me this on Monday, and you caught me off guard, but it was a good question about what you would trade for Josh Rosen. And like I said, I think I would trade a first-rounder. I don't know if I would trade a top 10 pick for a Josh Rosen. A late first. Even if you're the Washington Redskins at number 16, if I'm correct off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think that's about the borderline there where I'd go, okay, you want to give up your 16th pick for Josh Rosen? Go ahead.
Arizona, it feels like they would be pleasantly surprised if someone was willing to give that up.
Yeah, I think so too. What I think also, it's not just about the value of Josh Rosen as the player. He's worth a first-round pick in a trade. The problem, this is what people have to realize, the value gets diminished when the team that wants to trade him has another guy that they like at the position. Right. So they can't hold everybody's feet to the fire going, oh, no, oh, yeah, well, we really like Josh Rosen. And at some point, teams are going to go, well, we don't buy it. Right. We think you like Kyler Murray and you'd like to get him out of the building. So here's our final offer, take it or leave it. That hurts the trade value, too. And I think sometimes that gets lost in this discussion.
You think he would be worth mid-teen to late 20s pick in the first round, but I'm going to set the over-under on what they get for him.
Yeah.
As a second-round pick draft night, you taking the over or under?
Ooh, I'm going to take the over would be high. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to end up being a second-round pick.
Second-rounder.
Yeah, I do. I think if I had it, so I'm going the push there or whatever. Yeah. But, yeah, I think it's right around that range because I think at the end of the day, teams are going to call Arizona's bluff and go, no, we know you're hot on Kyler Murray. We have somebody that knows his agent, and we got a good feel for this. So we're not giving you our 20th pick of the draft or whatever. Second-round pick,
I think
maybe another mid-round pick or something. Yes, and it could be a steal, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. He's got talent. There's no doubt about that.
Not a doubt. All right, thinking about the draft for this year's quarterbacks, I keep reading, I keep hearing that maybe Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State is sinking a little bit from the he's a top 10 pick. Maybe he's sliding down further. Some people would say sliding out of the first round.
Right.
You buy it.
I don't buy out of the first round. There's no way. Let me clarify with this right off the bat. Dwayne Haskins, from everything I've seen on film, is a top 10, a top 15 pick. I don't have any reservations about that. He's big. He's fearless in the pocket. He has a big-time arm. He has a very quick release. I know he's not that mobile, but he's got very quick feet in the pocket to readjust, which I like, okay? And you've heard me say Big Ben Roethlisberger is who he reminds me of in a lot of ways because he can have people all over him, and he can still stripe a 20-yard in-cut down the middle of the field.
What do you think the concern that's creeping up is?
I think it's everything post-bowl game, really, to me. And you've heard me say this. I did not like the look of him at the Combine from all facets. Not only the way his body looked, but didn't think he dropped back in just some of the drills correctly, like he hadn't worked on it much. Then you cramp after 140 and don't run a good time at the 40 position. Hey, when you run 5.04 this day and age in the NFL position at quarterback, and then there's a guy like Quinnen Williams who runs a much faster time than that at 303 pounds at defensive tackle, people are going to be concerned. It's just a different world. They're no longer the pocket passer is as sexy in the NFL. So I think that, let alone, like you've heard heard me say the litmus test of he kind of failed the optics of the combine, I think have teams concerned, and he's only played 1 year. That would be the reason I think teams would be having reservations about him. But I mean, if he falls out of the first round, I would be like mind blown, shocked. I just can't see that happening.
Interesting that Kyler Murray only played 1 year as well.
Yes, I know. You're right.
It's not being held against him.
It's not being held against him. No, you're right. And hey, listen, and again, I don't hold that totally against him. I hold it against him in like this with Dwayne Haskins. I've told you, I have Drew Lock ranked ahead of Dwayne Haskins. I think in a very close race, I've given Drew Lock a little bit of the advantage. And when it gets this close to where I'm going, I'm not sure. They're both good. I really like both. I'm going to give the guy the little bit more experience the advantage there. Right. And Drew Lock's played more football and been more big situations to where that can make me feel a little bit more comfortable. Dwayne Haskins, who was very raw at the beginning of the year and continued to grow, and we saw good things, certainly. But, yes, there's still probably more questions to be answered along those lines.
And Drew Lock has played a lot more football.
A lot more.
About 3 seasons.
Yes, right. 3 seasons has been the guy, and they've put a lot on his shoulders to carry the team and make big-time throws. And to me, I put stock into stuff like that because, it shows me, one, that the coaches think he's special to put all that on his plate and make plays happen. Yes, two, he in the SEC, not a real good team. He was going to be dependent on a weekly basis to have to make some difference-making type plays for the Missouri Tigers to win football games. And he came through in a lot of those instances, or came through to keep the game close to where they didn't get blown out by the teams that were clearly better than them. And I give him credit for some of those situations too.
It reminds a little bit of an SEC team, one of the, more toward the bottom SEC teams with a very talented quarterback, Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
Exactly right. And he has a lot of similarities to Jay Cutler. And I hear people try to use that as a negative sometimes. Like, I see a lot of Jay Cutler there. Like, okay.
He had a nice career.
He had a very nice career. Yeah. Jay Cutler, again, is better than what people think and realize. It's a team sport. I know everything's about the quarterback now. It's all that matters. Tom Brady does the whole thing by himself. Nobody else is even helping. He makes all the tackles. He blocks everybody. He calls the plays. Nobody else. That's what we've gotten into this world. And I would go for Jay Cutler to defend him. I would go, he had unbelievable talent. And you look at the years when he was around quality offensive coordinators, Adam Gase and Mike Shanahan, he kicked ass.
It was good.
Okay? And other years when I can't even remember these people's names and their crap on offense and all that and things weren't so good, yeah, he wasn't that good. I understand that. But I think Jay Cutler is a little better than maybe the public gives him credit for.
Are you done watching this class of quarterbacks, or you still have work to do?
No, I still have work to do. I still have to, I always like to try to really do at least a deep dive into all the guys. And there's guys at the bottom of the list who I haven't done a deep dive on. Like, I know a little bit about, so I can talk about them when I get on radio appearances and things like that, but I haven't. There's probably like a list of 10 quarterbacks where I go, I've only seen cut-ups and tapes, and I want to watch some games and really get a feel for what this guy is. Games mean something. If you're just watching film and you're watching cut-ups and things like that, you're going to lose context of why things happen or what makes the guy special or what makes the guy not special. All of that matters as far as context clues in evaluating the players.
And we're going to have Steve Palazzolo from Pro Football Focus here momentarily. You mentioned just a little bit ago that sometimes you agree with how they evaluate, and sometimes maybe you see it the other way. Is there one sticking point where you're like, I do it this way, I see it this way, and these guys always see this first?
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, and of course, we're going to have these conversations with Steve when he comes on. Yeah, numbers don't always tell everything, okay?
Which numbers are you thinking?
Well, first of all, again, if we're giving positive grades, okay, for completions and big play passing yards, okay, the quality of those plays matters to me. I don't sit there and go, oh, here's a pick play and some awesome design play by the offensive coordinator, and there's nobody in the screen for the quarterback to throw a 20-yard completion and he hits it. I don't go, oh, gosh, woo, man, good thing they got that quarterback. Yeah, great. Every high school quarterback in America made those throws. I want to see throws that are conducive to more of what you're going to have to do in the NFL. So a grading department could have a guy like that who's some creative offense playing against some bad teams or bad defenses, and the numbers look great. and you go there and, okay, yeah, our formula we used, this guy is one of the best, overall grades we have. Sure, okay, yeah, that's nice. But then there's, okay, let's say Drew Lock, where I want to go, man, yeah, there's some ugliness in some of these games statistically in numbers, but let's go back and watch Georgia and Alabama. Show me a receiver that's open in 45 in a row pass plays. There's nobody open, or I'm going to give more credit to, a guy stands in the pocket and throws a laser to a 20-yard in-cut through a tight window and kind of has people around him, which is very conducive to an NFL. I'm going to give that a lot more credit than the play like I just talked about, where there's a slot receiver who gets a pick play and a quarterback's in the clean pocket and makes a throw that's accurate and nice, and that's all good. But on the grading scale, they're going to get the same grade? No, they're not. That's when experience happens, and you have to take into account the offense, the defense that's being played against, and yes, the degree of difficulty of the play and throw has to be valued into the ranking of that play and how that affects the numbers.
Steve Palazzolo from Pro Football Focus is now with us.
Whoop, whoop.
Steve, have you been listening to Chris talk about you?
I caught the tail end of it.
Good. I'm glad you only got the tail end.
What'd you think?
It sounds like you're questioning things, so let's have at it. What's going on?
What are your
questions?
Well, no, first of all, you do great work, Steve. You really do. PFF, there's a lot of value. I know you're an extremely intelligent guy. I've had too many people tell me that. I'm not here to down talk anything you guys do. I just want you and I to have some healthy conversations. I know there's some disagreements we have in the process, and I know the numbers have great value. I really do. I'm not against the numbers. I just am going to probably argue sometimes here with certain guys that numbers don't say everything, and I guess that's where we can have some healthy discussions. Now, I think the place to start, Big Steve, is the quarterback position. So I know Dwayne Haskins. Let's just start there, okay? An easy one, a layup. I think we both like him. I think your numbers back him up, and I like him as a player as well. But just tell me what you see and your evaluation of him overall.
Yeah, and by the way, I think the healthy discussion is very healthy, and it's stuff we do internally here too. And one of the tough things for us is balancing, our overall grade, which is based off production, which tries to take context into account, but also needs added context as you dig into things further. So I think it is very important. With Haskins, he didn't grade as well as the stats would have showed last year, with 50 touchdowns and not a ton of interceptions and just tearing it up in Ohio State's offense. But the concern for us was under pressure, and then it showed up in a lot of big games at Purdue, at Penn State, pretty much all their road games, at Michigan State. Under pressure, moving off the spot, he was just not good. But you give him the clean pocket, you give him a clean look. He looks like an NFL quarterback, makes all the necessary throws, a little bit more inconsistent throwing the ball down the field. But I think he's a good, not great type of prospect, and probably the second best prospect in this draft for us behind Kyler Murray.
Yeah, just to point it out, you have him ranked second, and you have him ranked third.
I have him ranked third, right. I have Drew Lock as number 2, and Haskins is number 3,
yes.
But saw a lot of the things Steve said. I mean, yes, the big concern with Dwayne Haskins is when he does get pushed out of the pocket and has to get on the move or make a guy miss to buy himself more time to make a throw down the field. It's not it's not beautiful. There's no doubt about it.
That's been the concern, no matter if someone has him ranked second or third or fourth. That's the one common theme is when there's pressure on him, he doesn't move off his spot well. Is that something that a good quarterback coach or coordinator could help him get past, or is that just part of who you are?
Well, there's a little bit part of who he is, but he'd have to, a good offensive coordinator or coach is going to be able to make him better at what he can realistically do and maybe improve it from it there. Now, what I want to ask Steve about the pressure thing too, what consists of pressure as far, does the quarterback have to move out of the pocket or move in the pocket for it to be considered pressure? These are just little nuances I'm truly interested in because I read your guys' stuff all the time.
Yeah, so it's if he does move and he's forced to move, that's one way to do it, and then just having a guy in his face. A guy in his face. If he gets knocked down on any play, it's going to go down as pressure. And then there's sometimes we'll even charge pressure to the quarterback and say, look, you sat in a clean pocket. That's all on you.
Yes, right.
That was Haskins in the bowl game. Very early in the game, he sat in a clean pocket and took a sack, and we charged that to him. So it's considered a play under pressure, but he's also going to get a downgrade because the sack was his fault, not the O-line. So, yeah, moving off the spot, having a guy in his face, getting knocked down, those types of things all add up to pressures.
Yep. Okay, that's cool. And just say to push back with Steve a little bit here, there's things about when he did have pressure that I liked too. And it wasn't perfect, but one of the things I loved about Dwayne Haskins is when people were around him, and to what Steve talked about, he will sit in the pocket sometimes forever, and that could be a good thing, but it could also be a detriment at times too, because it can be a good thing because sometimes he sits there and the pocket starts to collapse because he's patted the ball 3 or 4 times, and he rips some 20-yard laser down the middle of the field for a first down, and that's the good thing. But there's other times he waits for that to happen, and then nothing happens, and he gets a sack, or he has to throw the ball away at the last second, and they get no yards in the completion. But I did like his ability of throwing with people around him. Now, whether he can't step into a pocket or people are grabbing at his shoulders, I like the fact that he was unaffected by it. Wasn't always perfect, but I thought he has the ability to make big-time throws when his feet aren't perfect or a little out of balance, and that's just something I guess I like about his game, but I understand your point about pressure and moving him off the spot.
Yeah, and so one of the interesting things that we found, too, with the numbers is that pressure numbers, whether it's a PFF grade or just strictly using passer rating or yards per attempt, they just tend to fluctuate quite a bit year to year. So sometimes the guy that stands in the pocket and makes the great throw, you're like, wow, that's a great throw. He did it under pressure. But to expect him to do that consistently over and over again is just we just haven't found that to be the case, that guys are capable of doing it. You know what I'm saying? So you're actually better off looking at guys playing from a clean pocket, playing from the conditions they're going to play under most often at the next level. And that's where Haskins is actually pretty good. The stuff looks good, and his short intermediate accuracy is among the best in the class. Okay, so let's go on to the next guy. Let's go on to our big disagreements here. Go ahead. Where do you want to lead this?
Well, either way it's good because at 1 they have Kyler Murray, no surprise, but Steve has Kyler ranked number 1 overall, and you and I talked earlier in the week that not many people have him number 1 in the entire class of every prospect. So before we get to the disagreement
of
3,
do that. Let's do that.
Steve, what did you see with Kyler Murray to not only have him as the 1 quarterback like everybody else does, but to have him as the best overall prospect in this entire class?
Yeah, so for us, it's about positional value. If you hit on a quarterback and you grab a quarterback that can be a top 8 to top 10 quarterback, which we think Kyler Murray has that potential. Now, when we're saying potential, it means there's a percentage chance that he becomes a top 10 guy, or percentage chance that he's a top 15 or top 20. He has the best chance to be a top 10 guy, right? I think we agree that's why we have him number 1.
Right.
Based on that, if he hits that ceiling, then he's by far the most valuable player in this draft. So you can't even put him on the same board as, say, a running back or maybe a safety in some of these other positions. So we think Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams, some of these other guys might be better pure players at their position. They might have a better chance of being, say, a top 5 player at their position. But if Kyler Murray hits his ceiling or even close to it, from just a value standpoint, we have a metric, wins above replacement, much like baseball does. He's not even close to anyone else in the class. He becomes the most valuable player in the class. So from a positional value standpoint, he's number 1 on the board for us.
No disagreeing there.
No disagreeing. I mean, this is something that I've argued against with a lot of people's big boards is, quarterback is a special position, like Steve's saying. And we're talking about a guy who has a lot of special qualities about him, has an awesome arm, throws the ball awesome on the run, is as electric as a runner as we've ever seen, to where, I've been just absolutely blown away, Steve, a little bit about some guys, the draft experts, who have had Kyler Murray as the 13th best player on their big board, and I just want to go, that just absolutely makes no sense. And as compared to other guys who I've seen in recent history who they had as the number 1 quarterback on their big board or whatever it is, and I want to go, damn, Kyler Murray's skill set's better than these guys they've had at number 1. So that is something we agree on, and I'm glad to hear Steve and I are in the same camp of that one.
And that's a perfect way to go to the part where you don't agree.
All right, now you, Steve. Let's get into it.
Your 3rd overall quarterback, your 3rd best quarterback, Will Grier. I think Chris has him as his 8th best quarterback. What do you see in him that a lot of others don't see to have him that high?
Look, I think Grier is a tough evaluation. He's one of those guys where the numbers keep pointing him to, saying, look, he's really good numerically in our system. He's good, but I can also watch the film and understand why people have reservations about him. I had to trust the numbers in this one because I think he's accurate in the right areas, throwing beyond the sticks, making accurate throws from a clean pocket. I have some of the same concerns I have with Haskins when he moves off the spot, has to play outside of structure.
Right.
He reminds me a little bit of Derek Carr, where they have this, I think, creativity as far as throwing guys open down the field. You saw that game winner against Texas,
right?
Dropping it in the back of the end zone. One of the best throws anybody in the class even made. But then you have plays where if the defense does anything different post-snap, he's a little, he's a little uneasy, I think.
Yes,
and I think the West Virginia system made him look a little bit better. But when all that's said and done, it's how do you weigh those things? How do you weigh those strengths and weaknesses? And I just think his accuracy beyond the sticks is among the best in the class, which is why we put him ahead of some of these other guys.
There's a lot of truth to what he said there. I mean, really, I agree with a lot of them. Obviously, I agree more with some of the things he pointed out about the offense. And yes, I mean, he's right about Will Grier. When he does move out of the pocket, it's nothing special, okay? What I would argue, too, again, like you said, Steve, and I think you're spot on, when the pocket's clean and people are open, he's an accurate thrower. But to me, that's not always going to be life in the NFL, especially. So to me, on some of those plays, what I think concerns me is the offense does set up a lot of completions and easy throws for him, definitely. And, Steve, to what you said, yes, when I look at games like Iowa State or Oklahoma State, who had some talent to challenge throws, challenge maybe some of the BS plays they have in their offense, right, that were just like, oh, Holgerson did a great job of scheming up a guy wide open. When they were taken away, I thought Will Grier was less than in being able to make something happen when maybe the pocket's not clean or maybe nobody's wide open. He didn't, to me, have the accuracy to throw the ball into tight windows, and I thought was very reluctant to throw the ball into tight windows at times, to where he takes the sack, and I want to go, yeah, I know that curl to the right wasn't wide open, but in the NFL, you're going to have to throw that, and he wouldn't do it, or he might throw it and becomes a bang-bang play, right, where the DB knocks it down just as it gets there. And then I go, yeah, but see, that should be a completion there. And to me, that's where I go back to Will Grier. What is it about him, okay, because the numbers, I agree with Steve, they're going to back him up. But what is it about him, the player, that is going to make him special in the NFL? I think it's a below-average NFL arm. He's a below-average NFL athlete at the quarterback position for this day and age. So, to me, that's where I get scared of Will Grier and what he can do. Added to the fact for this, and Steve, please debunk me on any of this, but for the fans out there that are listening too, this is the other thing that I would just throw out there. He was on one of the more talented teams in the Big 12 with a really good offensive coach. And we're not talking, the Big 12 stinks right now. There's just no other way around it. And I'm a Big 12er. And we're not talking about one defensive player in the Big 12 in the first 2 rounds, maybe not even in the first 3. And I take that into account too. So I wonder, please tell me if I'm wrong about anything you said or what jumps out to you. And do you take into account the talent maybe they have to play against at times?
So I think that stuff's a factor. It's because we're ranking this draft class that is the biggest issue. And we're comparing Grier to the Drew Locks and Daniel Jones and Ryan Finleys of the world, who have plenty of warts themselves.
Yes.
The thing about the Big 12, yes, they stopped playing defense since you've been there. They don't cover well. There's a lot of open throws. But again, going back to what our numbers tend to say is those are the consistent things. Your best quarterbacks, you put them in a clean pocket, you give them open throws, they're going to consistently hit them more than the lesser quarterbacks. And that stuff's going to stay stable year to year. The under pressure stuff, the tight window throw stuff will kind of fluctuate a little bit, much like it has with a guy like Derek Carr, who I made a comparison to earlier.
Sure.
He had one year where tight window throws, he was spectacular. The next year, one of the worst in the league. It just tends to fluctuate. So in that sense, Grier is one of the best in the class at just hitting open throws, which might sound like the easy stuff, but it's also the stuff that stays consistent at the next level, that separates the Bradys, the Breezes, the Aaron Rodgers, and the Baker Mayfields, all the best quarterbacks at the next level. So he's not Baker Mayfield at all, but this is what we were making this argument last year. I don't care that Baker Mayfield had it easier than some of the other quarterbacks because he did the easy stuff at a higher level than everybody else. He also did the difficult stuff at a higher level than anybody else. You just didn't see it as often. So Grier's not Baker Mayfield, but I think from an easy stuff standpoint, so to speak, he does things really well that I think should translate at the next level. But like every other quarterback, I think after Kyler Murray, everybody's scheme dependent. We're splitting hairs on all these guys because they're all dependent on everything around them. There's, I think, one potential transcendent talent in this draft, and it's Kyler, and the rest of them have a ton of warts.
I want to ask you this next question, Steve, because you just don't see it very often. The fact that you have him ranked ahead of Drew Lock, did you have to spend a couple days really thinking about that? Was that a difficult decision for you to make and to really write that name down at number 3?
Yeah, we've gone back and forth between Lock and Grier. Our old guy Zach Robinson, who just got signed by the Rams. I think after Murray and Haskins, when he was working with us and putting together his rankings, numbers 3 through 6 changed every week, and then I took over the rankings and I changed every week. So yeah, it's close, and we have a late first on Grier and an early second on Lock. I think they're both developmental type of guys. They're very different. The question is, if you look at Lock and say, oh, he's got more NFL arm talent, we can work with that. My concern with Lock compared to a Grier is just that throw for throw consistency, the footwork, the inaccuracy, and all that stuff that, he's going to make the flashier throws, but he's going to make the more consistent throws on a down-for-down basis. So we went with Grier over Lock. But, yeah, it's absolutely close between those two guys.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. So, again, I don't see it that way necessarily with – and listen, to his point with Grier, when people are open, yes, he makes the throws. I understand that. To me, I think Steve's giving the NFL and the fact that pockets are going to be clean and people are just going to be open, I think he's making that a little easier than it needs to be than it is for most teams. I mean, he used Breeze and Brady, where I want to go, they have two of the greatest offensive geniuses ever, and Brady sometimes goes 30 throws in a row and never gets off the first read. The first read's open every time. But that's New England. That's different. For the rest of the other quarterbacks in football, they're making throws into tight windows and having to throw a 20-yard comeback on 3rd and 10 into tight coverage and making those throws. That's where I go to Will Grier and go, I just don't see any of that. Mm-hmm. And, if he's going to have to make some of those plays, where then on Drew Lock's side, hey, is there some rawness and things that I don't like at times? Certainly. But I see a lot of big-time NFL-conducive throws where, it's 3rd and 10 versus Florida, and he throws a 20-yard out route into very tight coverage between a safety and a corner to get it in there to make a first down, let alone, like I said, if we're talking about, talent on the field and things like that. Once again, I mean, West Virginia in the Big 12, more times than not, steps on the field and is the best team on the field, except for it's Oklahoma. It's the only team you can go, okay, maybe they're not better than them. Missouri steps on the field in the SEC and is the lesser team on the field every week unless it's Vanderbilt, okay? Right. Other than that. And then I just want to go, so life was hard. He was in a different situation where his offense, I think, stunk, okay? I think it was one of the worst offenses. And with Lock and all that, too, man, when you talk about the SEC and defenses, I mean, they just look at the numbers of the draft. You want to get in the numbers. I mean, linebackers, D linemen, defensive backs. Wow, is it off the charts? There's not been a lot of great quarterback play in the SEC because of that. So that's where I guess I would push back against that. I think you're crazy that you have Will Grier in front of Drew Lock, but everything else, I think you're a pretty smart guy.
That's fine. I mean, look, when Lock did have to face that better competition, other than Florida, though, it wasn't all that great. It was a little ugly. He reminds me a little bit of Jay Cutler with his footwork. We never saw it. Look, I actually had to go back, and I love making the old comparisons, only if they make sense. So I went back and watched a whole bunch of 2005 Jay Cutler stuff. Right. Jay Cutler's footwork in 2005 was so much better than what Lock's bringing to the table right now. And we know Cutler's, not exactly the epitome of great footwork at the NFL level. He's fading away from throws left and right, never really developed in that area. So that'd be my huge concern with Lock. Why is he sitting in a clean pocket, fading away? Why does he never step up in the pocket like an NFL quarterback does? He's always drifting backwards or to the side. So here's the thing. If you put on Lock's 15 or 20 best throws and compared them to the rest of the draft class, I get it. It's all there. It's just, it's the throw-for-throw stuff over time that I have concerns with. I know the high-end stuff is there. There's just not this great track record of quarterbacks who only have the high-end stuff developing the easy stuff, so to speak. So
yeah, I get you.
Those are my concerns.
Yep, I hear you. And again, I'm glad we're having this conversation. To me, it's easier to teach Drew Lock the things he needs to fix than teach Will Grier the things he needs to fix there. Mm-hmm. And I would say, even to the Jay Cutler point, he wasn't fading away as much when Mike Shanahan was his coach and Adam Gase. Now, when Johnny Numbnuts was his offensive coordinator at Chicago, and I can't even remember his name, and the offense stunk, yeah, there was some fadeaway throws that you go, what the hell is he doing? But I think a little bit of that is a part of the environment you're in at times. And like I just said, I did not think a lot of the Missouri offense altogether. I do think Drew Lock has some big-time talent. But again, we'll see. And hopefully we can have this conversation somewhere down the line a few years from now, and we can go back and reevaluate and say what we got right, what we got wrong, and have more fun conversations with this, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all in on that. QB evaluation is always fun, and I think we're at a time in the NFL where there's 6 to 8 guys that can carry an offense no matter what you do around them, and then QBs 8 through 28 are all they're not completely interchangeable, but they're very dependent on everything around them, from what you say, from coaching to receiver talent to O-line. So, I mean, I think that sums up this draft class, and I think Kyler has a chance to be one of those top guys, and the rest are very dependent on their ecosystem.
Yeah, I get you there. There's definitely questions about every one of them other than Kyler Murray for me, too.
Where would you have Josh Rosen in this class?
Good question.
I think Rosen is very similar to Haskins. The clean stuff looks pretty, and, they throw a nice NFL dig route. And honestly, I think both of them probably get overrated because the good stuff does look so pretty. And you're like, hey, that looks like an NFL quarterback. But the same questions I have with Haskins, I have with Rosen: off the spot, pressure. We saw it last year in Arizona, even though that situation was terrible.
Right.
I just think Rosen has so many highs and lows that he does need that perfect situation around him.
What would you trade for him? What would you be willing to give up to get him?
So I still think he's worth a first-round talent, because when you're talking about finding the quarterback, the upside of hitting on a quarterback is just so far outweighs the risk of giving up a first-round pick. So I don't think Rosen lost any value going to Arizona last year. Even though in that terrible situation where he didn't perform very well. So I still think he's worth a first rounder, but we'll see what happens with the NFL if they soured on him after a year. He's still worth the risk, so to speak, because that high end can be pretty good for Rosen.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I even said before you came on, I just would like to hear this, and we'll let you go. We bothered you long enough, but like if you had to rank them, and put Rosen in the class right now, you think you'd put Rosen? Like I said, I would have put Rosen number 2. I would go Murray. I would probably give Rosen the slight advantage over a Lock and Haskins. You feel the same way, or would you give Haskins the slight advantage over Rosen?
I'd give Rosen the slight advantage over Haskins.
Yeah.
I'd say they're both. Last year we had Rosen as the number 3 quarterback in the class. It was Baker by a mile, Darnold in his own little tier, and then Rosen in his own little tier. And I think that's where I'd slot him and Haskins in their own third tier, I guess, out of the last 2 quarterback classes for us.
Gotcha. Awesome stuff, Steve. We appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steve. See you, pal.
See you, buddy.
He's like 6'7".
Yeah, I know. I've seen him. I don't even know. We met once. I was going to say at the Super Bowl or something like that.
Former AAA pitcher. He almost made it in the bigs.
I mean, he's 6'7" with those long arms. I'm sure he could throw some heat back in the day.
Some serious wingspan and levers there.
So that was a good conversation. I like that. I certainly do.
Those guys know what they're doing.
Yep.
They watch every snap. I mean, they've got real legitimate opinions.
No doubt. We could have talked about that. I mean, maybe at some point we have a whole show of just Steve on, because I could really go into. I wanted to go into some of the nuances about, like I said, again, the grading, the degree of difficulty of throws too. Like, there's a wide open running back on a wheel route down the sidelines. I'm not going, woof, man, what a play by Will Grier.
But it sounds like he puts a lot of stock into guys who can consistently hit him at least. He's not saying it's that like it's a difficult throw, but the ones who don't hit those throws a lot.
I get you. Now, where I would argue with that is because Will Grier gets to throw it 60 times a game, and he gets a lot of opportunities. And since he takes sacks when things aren't great and all of that, he gets a lot of easy throwing completions where the guy's wide open to show that, I can throw it accurately, this guy. And I would go conversely to the other side in a crap offense with Missouri, it's hard to find games where there's completions that are easy. It's hard. It's every completion's, that's pretty good coverage, good throw. He put it on the money. They dropped that? Oh man, that was a great throw. Guy's got his hand in there, but nobody else is open on the field. So, those are the things I look at. And to me, here's the other thing. When he talked about, Lock does have an issue. If there's an issue, does he move? And I'm going to stand up for a second, Andy, all right?
At least once a show.
Know it. It's coming in with more of this defensive line talk. It's going to be coming a lot. But what he's talking about is Lock will do this at times. He's here ready to throw. The pocket's somewhat clean, and he'll fade away and do this and make a throw like that. And you go, why did you do that? Just stand there and make the throw. You don't have to do that. And that's what can happen sometimes if you look at a tape and go, let me just watch all his throws or all his completions or whatever it may be. And,
Okay, I'm going to get up one more time, Annie, because I didn't finish my point. But, okay, yeah, you're going to do this. We don't like that. But if you watch the game sometimes, when you have pressure in your face, like 3 out of every 5 plays, as you know from playing quarterback, you start to see and feel ghosts at times.
You get bad habits.
You get in bad habits because you go, damn, I've had to make 3 throws in a row, fading away and doing it. And now it seems like the pocket's kind of collapsing me on every throw. So now he's like, kind of gets in the mode of, let me fade away or let me move. And it can create bad habits. Hey, way to go, man.
Matt Casey, another former college quarterback.
Very good, yes. College quarterback. Not a very good college quarterback, I meant to say. But good job bringing the ball. Thanks for contributing to the show finally.
We need that a lot because we're talking defensive tackles now.
Yeah.
Who doesn't need a football as a prop?
You know.
When we get into defensive tackle rankings. So I'm going to let you find your stuff there.
Yep.
So we've gone through quarterbacks the past couple of weeks. We've hit wide receivers. We hit running backs, corners.
Yes.
Rush ends.
Yep.
Now we're on defensive tackles.
Yeah.
We're going to go 7 through 1. No surprise who one's going to be. Some names I want to learn about here, starting off at number 7,
Sure.
though. Another Buckeye. What do you have?
Yeah, Draymond Jones. A guy that, okay, first of all, this is an unbelievable group of football players. I think that's where we got to start out. But Draymond Jones, I mean, you're talking about a guy 6'3", 281, ran a 5.12 in the 40, plays faster than that, more athletic than that. You know, not a space eater type of guy as far as a defensive tackle is concerned. I wrote down as a comparison Malik Jackson, okay? That's the kind of guy he looks like to me. Kind of that hybrid 3 technique, be able to move him out to defensive end at times and do that. Going to be more of a guy who wins through disruption and wins with his athleticism. I mean, for a defensive tackle, he's got a little bend coming around the edge, which is rare to see. He's got incredibly quick side-to-side movement. When he gets in one-on-one situations with guards and things like that, he can literally juke them out to make his moves to go get the quarterback. All of that is really good. But he's not going to be the type of guy that's going to sit in there and just hunker down and, we're going to make a mosh pit in the middle of the field to stop the run game and 3 people are it's going to take to move him and do that. No, he's not that type of guy. But he's got extremely good hands. I mean, what I would call, this is what I call is grip and rip move, where he gets his hands on guys like this and then rips them out of the way and gets quarterback. It's some of the best I've seen in the draft, as far as stuff like that, with his hands and arm strength and things like that. Very special. I don't think this kid's a first rounder, but I think he goes on somewhere in the second round, somewhere between 35 and 62. This group is
a heck
strong.
of a class if number 7 is worth
this is
early second round pick.
This is some group of position guys here. It really is special.
Okay, Draymond Jones, Ohio State at 7, moving up to 6. We go from the Big Ten to the SEC.
Yeah, we're going to the SEC here, and we're going to a guy who really is probably higher than this, okay? And this is Jeffery Simmons, and I'm going to flip to my notes here as we go through it. But Jeffery Simmons, for all you out there, first of all, tore his ACL, okay? So recently, and working out and preparing for the combine. And so that's a little concerning, certainly. But the guy is a good football player. I think, and when we get done with this rankings, I'll tell you where I would have probably slipped Jeffery Simmons in here if he was totally healthy. He is a first-round talent. He's really a guy that's probably a top 20 pick in the NFL draft talent. I think there's still a really good chance he goes in the first round, despite all this. 6'4", 301, rocked up athletic guy. Now, I mean, he's rocked up. You can see the muscles. You can see the hamstring striations, and then you can see his butt, everything. I mean, he's great, a great twitchy athlete who can be disruptive, shoot into the backfield. Now, there are issues that concern me. Okay, one of the issues is I think he's a made-up 301 pounds. That concerns me a little bit. Like, I think he's a guy that if he didn't lift weights religiously and really was obsessed with the weight room, he'd probably be 280 pounds, 285 pounds.
What'd you see that makes you think that?
What makes me see that is not a lot of great natural strength always. If I had to knock a negative on his game a little bit, it is double teams were not like his cup of tea. When he gets double teamed, he can be moved around. If he gets around a good guard who's got a little athleticism to match him and they get their hands on him, he can be overpowered in that type of situation too. So I think those are my negatives about him. But he's a 3 technique type of football player who is going to win through disruption more times than not. He's a special athlete, but I was a little less impressed with his power and his ability to anchor versus some running schemes where he had to take on a double team or a down block or whatever it may be. But again, rare to have somebody 6'4", 301 that can move and be as twitchy as he can, and I think that's the value of him. He's a 4-3 defensive guy, right? He's a 4-3 defense in the NFL, 3 technique, someone who's going to shoot in the backfield, Grady Jarrett, but he's a little bigger than that, but it's along those lines of a type of player.
He's so talented and such potential. You could see a team using a first-round pick late on a guy who just tore his ACL in the last couple months?
I do. Yes, I do. I mean, and again, this is where knowing the player off the field a little bit, what kind of work ethic does he have, all of those type of things. What kind of guy is he in general? Is he a fighter? All of those things. Can he play through a little pain when maybe he's not feeling 100% early on in the season? All of those things will be taken into account on whether you take that chance at the end of the first round. But yes, he is worthy of that because if he was healthy, we'd be sitting here talking about him as a top 20 pick.
Draymond Jones, 7. Jeffery Simmons at 6. No list is complete when you're talking about defensive front 7 if you don't include somebody from Clemson, so let's go to number 5.
Yeah, number 5. And I might be a little lower on this guy than some, but Christian Wilkins is where I'm going number 5. Now, again, I just would like to remind everybody here, we're talking about awesome football players, all right? We're being nitpicky about first-round prospects who are all studs, but we got to separate them, and to separate them, sometimes you have to bring up the negative aspects of their game, okay? Christian Wilkins is a starting defensive tackle in the NFL for a long, long time and has Pro Bowl capability. So I know it sounds weird when I go, damn, he's number 5? Okay, yeah, I was a little underwhelmed by his film overall. Now, there's some things that are truly awesome and elite. He is an extremely pliable, flexible guy for 6'3", 315 pounds. Man, to run 5.04 in the 40 at that weight is phenomenal. His change of direction. Now, people might want to say, like, what the hell does pliable and bendable and all those things even mean for a defensive tackle? Annie, it's that time. I'm standing up.
Third time.
Okay? So what I mean by that is, okay, a Jeffery Simmons who might be a little tighter and tighter wound, right? He can get in some positions like this and he goes down and over. Wilkins can get double team and be like this and somehow slide through it and come up and still be on his feet and make the tackle.
For everybody listening,
yes.
You say be like this, Chris is almost falling down.
Right, like in an awkward position, like, oh man, I've taken on a guy and somebody hit me from the side and now I'm like bent over at the waist in some weird spot. But yet he doesn't go down, he stays on his feet, and then makes a play.
Is that the pliability?
So that's the pliability, exactly right. So that's what makes him very impressive. He can get skinny through gaps for a guy that's 315 pounds, really impressive. And I mean by that, he can kind of, between the guard and the center, he times the snap count, and he can just get skinny and slide right through in a hurry. That's all impressive. Now, the thing I didn't like about him was his ability to anchor. And when I get back to the word anchor for everybody out there, I mean your ability to hold ground when you're being down blocked or double teamed. That's a huge thing to me. How bad are your negative plays, right? And not that these were bad, but for a guy with his size and his measurables, I was a little disappointed at his strength at the point of attack in those situations. He can be moved back a little bit in some of those type of plays.
That's something that'll stand out to these evaluators, maybe even more than the numbers, because a lot of times your defensive tackle isn't asked to go ahead and make the play. He's asked to hold his ground.
Yes, exactly right. So that to me, again, what changes him there too, it takes him out of the conversation for being a shade nose or a nose tackle, because that's that guy, as you know, or anybody who studies defensive linemen out there, you want your nose tackle, your shade nose. He should be your most powerful football player on the team.
Just hold your spot.
Just hold your spot. I got 650 pounds pushing me. Oh, big deal. I'm just going to stand here and take them, and nobody's going to move me. Oh, I'm big and huge, and deal with it.
You just turn into your dad.
I know. That's what I always turn into my dad whenever I try to make so. But yes, that is, I think, what bothers me about him. But man, are his quicks are special. I mean, his hand punch to overwhelm one-on-one blockers. And what I mean by that is he can get out of his stance and hit a offensive lineman in the chest right underneath the shoulder pads and show such great power that they get knocked off balance, and then he can just go at his will to the quarterback. All of that stuff is really special. but I think that the length and sheer power is a little bit of an issue. I don't think he can two-gap in the NFL in a 3-4 defense. And I wrote at the end of the day, the kid is awesome. He's a top 25 player for sure. He's an incredible athlete. He has the nose for the ball, and he has 3-down value. Which is important because he can push the pocket in the pass game. But he reminds me of Kawan Short, okay, for the Carolina Panthers. He's an awesome player. Yeah. Exactly right. But, yes, I didn't think he was a top 10 talent or anything along those lines.
You said he's a top 25 player to you. What are the chances he's around for the Patriots with that last pick of the first round?
Yeah, I mean – it's going to be really interesting because teams are going to value these guys differently according to their schemes. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to be really interesting with these defensive tackles. But I think there's slight possibility he could be there. I mean, if you maybe bet, I'm saying he's off the board by the time the Patriots are there.
Yeah.
But if one or two moves happens unexpectedly, all of a sudden some guy can slide 10, 12 picks, and there he is for New England. And he would work certainly for the New England Patriots and what they want to do.
All right, look down from 5 to 4. Looks like the Cotton Bowl, Clemson to Notre Dame. Jerry Tillery showing up at 4. And if you think Wilkins is a late first-round pick, you think Tillery's a first-round pick as well?
I do. And Jerry Tillery just was better to me than I expected.
All the time or just at times?
All the time. You know, and again, so Jerry Tillery, this is the guy, first of all, the guy I would compare him to is DeForest Buckner of the San Francisco 49ers. He was a top 10 pick. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think he's quite as good as DeForest was when he was coming out, but he's along those lines, his body type, style of play. The one thing I always worry about with guys this tall is their ability to take on down blocks or double teams because you just can't have it all. You can't be perfect in every area. And for taller guys, they usually have issues there.
6'6", is
6'6", right. And he plays kind of tall at times. And when I first turned on the film, he was getting moved around a little bit early in the year where I just was like, damn, okay, this is not good. And then he was on the ground a few times. Being on the ground is a huge negative in the scouting world at the defensive line position. Why, you might want to ask, okay, just to give everybody a little knowledge on that. Because if you're on the ground, you can hurt somebody on your own team, fall on an ankle, you break the other defensive tackle's leg, whatever it may be. Nobody likes that.
You're not making a play.
You're not making a play. That's number 2, exactly right. And number 3, if you're on the ground, you might be stopping somebody else on your team from making the play because you're on the ground and now they've tripped over you even though they see the running back come into the hole and you mess up everything for everybody.
You said that was early in the season?
Early in the season.
Did it happen later?
But he got better with it as the year went on.
Yeah.
And he is a disruptive player.
Dominated Stanford. Remember
dominated Stanford. Yeah. Dominated a lot of people, more than I even thought when I was sitting there in person. But, you know, again, in one-on-one situations against interior defensive linemen, he's unblockable at times. I think that's the thing I really was just blown away about. He's not the type of like defensive tackle you want on the inside in goal line or short yardage situations. That's not the type of guy he is. But when it's first and second down in the middle of the field, man, I mean, don't be shocked if just, you know, Jerry Tillery splits through the defensive line and gets in the quarterback's way. Might not get a stat, but he had a FTP where he f***ed something up and now the play was ruined. That's where I got really intrigued by him. He has a knack for slipping or sliding off one-on-one blockers. I was just impressed with his ability to disengage in some of those. Okay, I got a guy blocking me. Okay, the running back's coming right here to my right shoulder. Let me throw the guy off me real quick and make the tackle. He was phenomenal at that. He keeps his eyes in the backfield that I thought were really impressive. He's got great hands in the pass rush, and because he moves so well, he's extremely hard to block when defenses do stunts and twists and things like that. You know, he's a very athletic 295 pounds. He ran 4.93, and I think that's the thing I like about him a lot. He's a good football player, and I said DeForest Buckner's the guy I compare him to.
Did he have any stretches? I only ask this because when a guy is that talented and plays a lot throughout the years like he has in the last 3 or 4 years, did you notice stretches where he kind of disappeared for a while? Because that was the knack coming into the year that, boy, he looks awesome sometimes.
Yes, right.
And then where is he for the next couple, 3 quarters?
Yeah, no, I had some of those worries too. And I think this year, I think he debunked those flaws. He really did. Because, yes, 2 years ago when we were doing games, you're right. There was games or quarters where he'd go, man, Jerry Tillery's awesome. And then I'd go, damn. Where the hell is he for the next 3 quarters? I think this year was a lot of quality play. Plus, he's got a lot of position versatility here, Burmeister. Okay, the thing I like is he could play 3 technique in a 4-3 defense. He could play 5 technique, for all those out there, a 5 technique, a 3-4 defense, where the defensive end lines up straight over the offensive tackle. This would be like the Richard Seymour position, right, in a 3-4 defense with the New England Patriots. Has to be a tall, long, strong guy who can 2-gap, can straight arm, hold up an offensive tackle, not necessarily attack and get the ball, hold his ground, read the play, disengage when you know where the play is going. That's what a 3-4 defense has to do. So he can do all 3 of those things, which is going to make him appealing to 2 different types of defenses in the NFL, which I think add to his draft value.
I remember sitting in Brian Kelly's office, I think it was late August, in there for a training camp trip. And I said, Coach, tell me one thing that you know about your defense. Number one thing that comes to mind. And he said, Jerry Tillery is going to be disruptive all the time.
Exactly.
And it's some real players on that defense last year.
They did.
For him to be the number one compliment and then to come through the way he did during the season, a lot of people feeling the same way you do about number 90.
Hey, again, I know I'm going to say this probably 3 more times, but again, there's just not a lot of people on planet Earth that's 6'6", 295 who can move around like Jerry Tillery. That's where the eliteness comes in this conversation.
You've got a line now. We've been 7 through 4. Draymond Jones, Jeffrey Simmons, Christian Wilkins, Jerry Tillery. There's a ... space dividing line between 4 and 3, which is Jerry Tillery at 4 and Ed Oliver at 3. Why the big difference?
Well, because it's not a big difference, but I think there is 3 classes or 3 tiers here of the players, and Ed Oliver is just an out-of-this-world special specimen. I mean, that's where it starts. He's like the Tasmanian devil as far as interior defensive lineman. And the film, Paul, is not always awesome because he's playing out of position. He's a guy that he weighed in at 287 pounds. I bet you he didn't play at 287 pounds.
So he was playing what position?
Nose tackle.
Wow.
Yeah, which is not for the guy that is the most athletic guy on your defense in the NFL. That's just not what you do. So you're going to see some negatives. It's a little bit of a projection with Ed Oliver. But Ed Oliver is one of the freakiest athletes at any position in the whole draft. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. He's got a lot of Aaron Donald, Geno Atkins type of style about him, right? A guy that, okay, yeah, he's not going to be, again, a space eater. He's not going to hold his ground versus double teams all the time. But, man, if you're one-on-one with him or he's got a beat on your snap count, holy cow, his get-off and his ability to shoot through a gap is as good as you're ever going to find in the NFL, let alone, okay, he's on the interior part of the defensive line and he's kind of standing up. His ability to kind of side shuffle down the line of scrimmage when the ball bounces outside and then be able to go and run down running backs on the edge of a defense is like a middle linebacker in the NFL.
Top 10 pick?
Yes, he is a top 10 pick. He is a top 10 prospect. Whether he goes in the top 10 or not, I don't know, but I think he'll be right on that fringe there. He is a 4-3 guy all the way. No 3-4 team's going to like Ed Oliver. You know, the 3-4 teams believe in size. Right. Ed Oliver is a speed guy all the way. But, yeah, I mean,
where would you like to see him? Like, best case scenario, you'd like to see him end up in which system with which pick?
You know, I think of teams like the Atlanta Falcons right off the bat there.
4-3 team.
A 4-3 team who loves athletic, disruptive people in the middle of their defense. Yeah, that's a team I look at and go, ooh, he got in the middle there with Grady Jarrett. Like, good luck trying to block those two all game long. But, yes, I mean, the athleticism, twitchy as hell, you know, playing out of position. The double teams, they're an issue, like I said, but it wasn't as bad as I expected, honestly, for the guy. You know, and really just an absolute freaky athlete. And the last thing is he is an incredible motor. And that is something to be talked about. It is like pedal to the metal every freaking play. And I put a lot of stock into that too. He's not going to die out on an 8-play drive and all of a sudden you got to take him out because he's exhausted. Right. He has good stamina for somebody that size.
You love this prospect. You say he's a top 10 pick, so I'm anxious to hear how much you like number 2, Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah.
If you like him better than Ed Oliver.
Yeah, I mean, Dexter Lawrence, and, you know, again, I pay attention to some of these rankings and everything out there. This is the guy I think everybody's missing out on right here.
Why is that?
I mean, because He's the best run stuffer in the draft, right? We talk about making a mosh pit, being able to take on double teams, do all of that. Out of this world. He's 340 pounds. I mean, so from that standpoint alone, he's got great value, whether he's a shade nose tackle or a 3-4 nose tackle. It doesn't matter. Good luck moving him. But here's the other thing. His athleticism is as good as Christian Wilkins, who he's 25 pounds bigger than.
Right.
I mean, his athleticism is really elite for this size. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anybody 340 move the way Dexter Lawrence moves. His power, his upper body power, his ability to just come off the ball and just absolutely own people in the one-on-one situations. I mean, it's laughable at times. Wow. If you and I watched it. It's funny. It looks like he's playing with kids at times.
How's the motor?
The motor is very good. It is. This might have been one of my favorite surprises of the whole draft. And like I am sitting here because I don't want to miss anything in my notes or anything like that. The bad plays, they're never bad. I put a lot of stock in that. Like, to me, his bad plays are stalemates. And if stalemates are your bad plays, then I'm okay with it. Every now and then, he's asked to stunt 3 gaps over and he might get pushed past that gap. Okay, that's great. I don't put any stock into that. Nobody on planet Earth is going to be able to go, hey, we'd like you to run 8 yards to the right and stop on the dead dime with a 300-pounder on your back. Okay, good luck with doing that. I don't care who you are.
He ran a 5.05.
Ran a 5.05.
At 340 pounds, you say?
Yeah, at 342 pounds.
Yikes.
Right, so 5.05, and we talked about a quarterback in Dwayne Haskins who ran 5.02, and that's why it's a concern. When a guy who's 109 pounds bigger than you is just as fast as you, that's an issue in the NFL. I just want to make sure I hit it all. So, 3 down value.
Yep.
That's the other thing. He is a phenomenal pass rusher. Why would you take him off the field is what I wrote. His ability to push the pocket is special. He's got great get-off. His ability to shock offensive linemen with a great punch to the upper body is as special as I've ever seen. His strength to get under the pads with his hands and push and dominate people back is special.
Why do you think he's falling for a lot of people?
Well, I don't know.
Nothing you saw would suggest that?
I don't see anything that would suggest that. Again, I just question, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And again, I don't have any knowledge of teams that are in love with him or anything like that. I don't really care what teams say to this point.
You just know what you saw.
I just know what I saw, and I've been around some good defensive tackles, and I just saw a lot of special elite attributes about this guy.
Could he play nose in the 3-4?
He could play nose. I think that's the other thing too. He could do everything, a little bit like the last guy, or we talked about Jerry Tillery being able to play different positions. Dexter Lawrence could be a straight nose tackle or a shade nose in a 4-3 defense. I think he could be a 3 technique in a 4-3 defense. And if you wanted to put him outside and for a 3-4 defense where he's just head up on a tackle, which he did at times for Clemson because they do some 3-4 stuff, he can do that. He's the best 2-gapper there is in this. So he is going to be good in any defense. And he is I just thought a really, really special player.
What makes Quinnen Williams number 1 better than guys that you clearly love at 2 and 3 and Lawrence and all of them?
Yeah, well, Quinnen Williams, I think since I've been in this business, which let's just say the 2010 season or 11 season is where I started to go, okay, I'm going to start watching film because I'm not playing football anymore and I'm a psycho and this is what I like to do. I think Quinnen Williams is the best film I've ever seen for interior defensive linemen. Ever. Yeah, it's better to me than Aaron Donald's coming out of Pittsburgh.
Which part of it is better? Because, that people listening are going to hear that and maybe like, what?
Yes.
How's that possible?
Yeah, well, I think that there's just less negatives. Like Aaron Donald, I had some of what I would have said about Ed Oliver a little bit. Like there were some issues at times where double teams, a good guard gets a hold of him and he can get pushed around. And that's still the case in the NFL a little bit. Again, we talked about it on Monday. There's a reason the Rams were the 23rd or 25th ranked run defense in football. Again, nobody is perfect. But this guy was about as close to perfect as I can ever remember. Really, one of my, I wrote, okay, I'm just going to read this verbatim because this might be fun, is just an absolutely awesome athlete, awesome body for a guy who's 303 pounds. Great legs, great butt, great low center of gravity, looks perfect. And then my next line was, I mean, holy shit, this kid is good. This disruption he creates is unreal. And I mentioned on a video we did, like, I had to get off the film a few times and go, wait, am I watching a highlight film or am I watching a game right here?
Yeah.
And he can do everything with double teams, beating people one-on-one, his ability in the pass rush inside, his ability to kind of, slap and swim and go around guards and centers. I mean, he does it every other pass play. So, yeah, to me, there was just no negative about the player. It was a lot of production, disruption, whatever you want to say. His ability to hold ground in the double team situations and make a mosh pit of the running game, all of that were special. But I wrote, my next line, again, I'm swearing a lot today, I'm sorry, but my next line was, he's borderline unblockable. When one-on-one versus run or versus pass, forget it. Centers, guards have zero chance. I said I really thought I was going to see a guy who struggled versus double teams, but that's false. Handles double teams like he's a 320, 325-pounder. Think he's the best interior defensive lineman I've watched. It's better than Aaron Donald in college. Incredible at getting off blocks versus the run versus the pass. Has incredible side-to-side quickness to get on the edge of offensive linemen. A great swing move and can chase down the run from the backside and can also win with power. So...
wow.
Does that kind of say it all?
It does.
Right? There's really nothing he can't do is what I wrote down.
So let's take all that knowledge.
Yeah.
2 weeks forward,
Yeah.
Kyler Murray comes off the board.
Yeah.
You want just disruption on your front seven, specifically your front four. Do you take him over Bosa?
Oof. I think for most teams, yes. I think I would pick Quinnen Williams. I think Quinnen Williams is a better player than Nick Bosa. I like Nick Bosa. I would say Nick Bosa is number 3 for me. Mm-hmm. I think Quinnen Williams... at the defensive line position, of course, you can affect more plays there. I think he's a better overall player on a play-by-play system than Nick Bosa. But again, I don't think he's going to be number 2 off the board because you got to look at the team who's number 2. And number 2 is the San Francisco 49ers, and they already have a plethora of defensive tackles. They've drafted, 3 defensive tackles out of the last 4 drafts, I believe, in Buckner, Eric Armstead, and Solomon Thomas.
Are any as good as him, though?
No, none of them are as good as him. They are not. And again, that is something for them to think about.
You think your buddy's going to bypass him just because they already have a couple?
I mean, I don't. I do. I think he'll bypass him. And if you made me bet, I think, yes, they're going to take a Nick Bosa at number 2. And because he's going to go, we're pretty good at defensive tackle. I don't want to waste the value of my pick on that position. And now he's going to have 2 special rushers coming off the edge and D Ford and Nick Bosa to where he goes, okay, yeah, when we play the Rams, I feel good about us getting pressure on Jared Goff. And I feel like we can contain Russell Wilson now with these guys. So I think those are all positives.
If Russell Wilson
is still in
the NFC West.
Is in the NFC West, right.
Right?
Yep.
And I know we want to talk to your pop about that. Do we have
do we got the big guy there?
Not yet. We're going to.
Okay, he's probably pissed because I just saw a text message just saying, "Can we do 12:30 sharp?"
Let's. And it's
12:44.
Let's throw up, if we can, for everybody who's with us on YouTube, take a look at, and I'll read these out. So we just went 1 through 7 on the defensive tackles. Number 1, Quinnen Williams, Alabama. Then Dexter Lawrence, Clemson. Ed Oliver, Houston. Jerry Tillery, Notre Dame. Christian Wilkins at 5 from Clemson. Jeffrey Simmons, Mississippi State at 6. And Draymond Jones at 7 from Ohio State. Very well done.
Thank you, sir.
A lot of guys you really like.
A lot of guys.
You think they're all top half of the second round and above?
I do. I would think all those guys on that list are, yes, about 45 and above. I think really the majority of them are going to be 30 and above, really, with, hey, maybe a Tillery or a Draymond Jones being the guys that could maybe fall out. I could see some teams maybe not loving everything about them, but as you can see, I like Tillery, I think, maybe more than most, and think he should be at least a top 30 pick.
Let's get back to quarterbacks and that name that we just had up, Russell Wilson. When I first read about the possibility of him being traded, I thought, no way. Yeah. I mean, that could never happen.
Right.
And now it's around more. You have more and more credible people saying, you know what, this is a real possibility. Yeah. What do you think?
It's interesting to me just because, again, you try to connect dots and everything that's gone on in the NFL, okay? And I think through history, I've learned a lot through connecting dots in my time. And when you hear certain rumors, I believe this because, I remembered when I heard these type of rumors, they're false. And when I hear this kind of rumor, they're true. Here's the 3 things that jump out, or maybe not 3. I don't even know how many I'm going to have here. But
we hear about a Giants talk a few weeks ago that Russell Wilson could go to New York at some point.
Well, of course, if you're the Giants, you'd love to have that conversation.
Sure.
I guess my reaction about Seattle, talking about top 10 quarterback, maybe even higher.
Yeah, right.
Maybe top 5 or top 6.
Right.
Isn't on the backside of his. I mean, to me, he's right in the middle of his prime.
Career, right.
Why would you be willing to even think about giving up that guy at that position?
Yeah, I understand that, and I think that's the big question because he is a special football player.
Right.
But I think that the Seattle Seahawks also look at this and go, wait, we're the Seattle Seahawks for a lot of reasons. It's not just Russell Wilson. We went in this playoff run and went to 2 Super Bowls because we had a young quarterback on his rookie contract, and we were able to build this great football team around him with great defensive players, great offensive linemen, Marshawn Lynch at running back, got a good depth of receivers around him as well. And I think Pete Carroll and John Schneider look at that, and they probably have a lot of self-confidence in their abilities to do that, and they go, I think we could win that way again. I think that's what they look at.
You think that's a mistake to think that way, to even entertain that thought?
Yes, I do. I do think teams have to start thinking this way a little bit. I do. Again, we're seeing too many teams in recent history have quarterbacks on rookie contracts who are in the Final Four or in the Super Bowl or in the Final 8. Or the New England Patriots who have a quarterback who takes a team-friendly deal and they're involved. So I think teams have to start taking notice of this. We are letting quarterbacks take hostage of organizations more than ever. But for me, with a Russell Wilson, I think he is a notch above maybe some of the guys we're talking about here.
Yeah,
this is a special, transcendent type of talent. I just wonder if there's more to it.
There has to be, and I have no idea what that more to it is.
Big
but there
market.
Must be.
Does Sierra want to get to L.A. and New York? Is that part of the issue?
Teams don't say goodbye to top 5, top 6, top 8 quarterbacks who are still in their prime if there's not something else. And again, I don't know what that something else might be.
No, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. That's an extremely rare type move for that to happen.
And maybe they're inside the building in Seattle laughing at all this. Say, we would never get rid of Russell Wilson. I don't know how this came out.
There's too many rumors out there for me to be totally just out of thin air and somebody made this crap up. And Jack Del Rio, who had Ken Norton Jr. on his staff, who's from Seattle and Oakland, those are the dots I begin to connect when I hear things like, oh, Jack Del Rio, an ex-NFL head coach. I mean, you and I have been around this business for a long time. When do coaches break news like that and say comments like that, right? They don't do that.
Yeah.
So for him to say something like that tells me that somebody he trusts is telling him at least that conversation's being had in the Seattle building or something along those lines. And it isn't like he just was like, I'm going to go make some news today and go on the NFL Network and stir the pot a little. No, I think he knows something, and he's letting us all know.
You went into Big Phil voice and Big Phil mode because you knew that the old man was on the line waiting. Hey Phil, you hear this talk about Russell Wilson possibly being traded.
Yeah, I heard it all.
What do you think?
Well, first off, I didn't quite hear Christopher go into my mode. It was a little bit, but not.
He was
approaching. He didn't go into this whole other person that I turn into sometimes I talk.
I did it a few times during defensive line breakdowns. So don't worry.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I always do. Yep.
But it's really interesting. So many things. I don't even know where to begin with Russell Wilson. I think my first thought is, Christopher, great point. Connect the dots. There's no secrets in the NFL, and every once in a while there is one. You're shocked because to keep a secret, you got to do a lot of lying. And we know all these coaches and teams are saying things to throw you off track. But sooner or later, here's my first point. Sooner or later, somebody is going to trade a franchise quarterback of Russell Wilson's caliber. Why are they going to do it?
Because of the recent success, I just said this, I think, and I hope I'm not. Because of the recent success we've seen with, quarterbacks on rookie salary caps and your ability to build the rest of the football team.
That's it.
Right.
There's just going to come a point that go, we're not going to put so much into the quarterback and hamstring so many other things we do with our football team or want to do. And then what are we as a football team? Do we want to put everything in our all of our eggs in the basket of the quarterback and the offense, or do we want to? What do we want to do? I think that's always going to be something too. But I've been waiting for this to, and I've said it on TV. Sooner or later, somebody's going to go, we're not doing that. We're not going to give one player whatever that is,
25% of the salary cap.
25%, 20, whatever it is, percent of our salary cap. Where I think, I just say this, and so many things come to mind. The Patriots only pay a few guys on their team.
Right.
The rest might have decent salaries, but it's one of the reasons why they keep winning. Of course, they're extremely well coached. They're very disciplined. We know all that. But they have incredible depth and versatility.
Yeah.
That is the key. When you build your team and you're paying 5 guys, what do you do when somebody gets hurt? Especially if it's one of the guys you're paying, who's you're putting so much into, not only with the money, but how you plan things too. So, really interesting. When I heard the news, heard you talking about this morning, I didn't go, oh my gosh, that's just incredible. That could never happen. Because I do believe that situation can happen, and I think it will happen within the next couple of years for sure.
And you believe it can happen, and this is something I said. I just think if 2 people were to do it and have the guts to do it, I think Pete Carroll and John Schneider would be towards the top of my rankings of going, these 2 guys have great self-belief, and they're cocky enough to actually go, we can make this happen. And I don't know, do you feel the same way about that, Dad?
Well, I do about them, yes. I just think they have great belief and their judging of talent and constructing a team. And I don't think they're the kind of – they don't sit around and go, oh, my gosh, what do you think? Is this going to work? I mean, I think they can make a decision and, boom, they go. And they do it. Just like drafting Russell Wilson. They were convinced he was maybe not – of course, I think he's exceeded even what they thought. But they were convinced he was the guy, and they had the courage to sweat it out. And if I thought he was the guy the way they did, I would have drafted him in the 2nd round instead of waiting to the 3rd round. So I can imagine John Schneider, what he was going through and all that time with waiting to see if Russell was going to fall to them in the 3rd round. So I do believe they're the kind of personalities that can do it. I think they realized they made a big mistake in taking and paying all these key players so much money, and it really it's short-lived. Players get old fast in the NFL, and it kind of backfired on them, no question.
But and there's always a but when you're talking about a team that's been this good, Phil, and has these kind of expectations. And I think both you guys laid out very good points, and for reasons for people like me to get past the initial, there's no way that could ever happen. But there's still this side of it. You have a chance to win 11, 12 games every year for the next 4 or 5 years when Russell's still in his prime. And he's the one guy, more than everybody else, who makes that happen, especially now that the defense is not as dominant as it once was. Do you really say goodbye, even though there's good financial reasons? Do you really let that walk out the door?
Well, listen, the other part of this too, Paul, it's a good question. The other part is, does this rumor get out? Did they want it to get out? Is it real? Is it not? I don't know.
They haven't squelched it.
Well, and is it possible that this is a way of saying, okay, Russell, there's only going to be a limit to what we do here. I mean, that can also be part of it too. But one more time, I don't think they would be afraid. I think they're one group that can do it. Why? Because they've had great success. They did go to 2 Super Bowls, and, let's be honest. They went to those Super Bowls yes, Russell Wilson played great, but they had a sledgehammer at running back.
Right.
They had a good offensive line.
Right.
That offensive line, you go across that first Super Bowl, and you go all
that was
across
special.
It's unbelievable.
Right.
Okay, and then they had all these defensive players, and then they made a decision, we can sign the defensive players, and we can find another left tackle. We can find another, and all of a sudden their offensive line is a disaster. So I don't know. I guess my whole thing there is maybe they want to go back and build the team and make it a little more well-rounded and versatile as far as, withstanding injury and different ways to win, except for, it's got to be just about our quarterback.
Right, exactly. And listen, I want to move on to the next subject, but I'm going to point this out for all of us 3 and anybody that's out there. Teams with quarterback-friendly deals with success lately, okay? It might be rookie contracts, might be just quarterback-friendly deals, right? Okay, we said Tom Brady. They're in the Super Bowl every freaking year, and part of the reason is because Dad said. The Rams were in the Super Bowl this year. Guess what? Jared Goff was on his rookie deal. The Seattle Seahawks went to 2 Super Bowls with a quarterback on his rookie deal. The Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl with a quarterback on their rookie deal. And in that same year, in the Final Four, you had a Case Keenum on the Vikings who wasn't being paid a lot, and a Blake Bortles on the Jaguars who was also on his rookie deal. How about the Baltimore Ravens with Joe Flacco when they won the Super Bowl? Rookie deal. The team they were playing against, the San Francisco 49ers, Colin Kaepernick, was on a rookie deal. So I think that right there shows you that there's been some success here. We talk about franchise quarterbacks, but I know we all want to think the quarterback does everything on the field now, like I make fun of all the time. I mean, nobody in New England does anything. Tom Brady tackles, catches, throws, runs. Nobody does anything. But I'm trying to show that it's a team sport. It's the ultimate team sport.
But you can't. It's hard for the public to buy that, you know. And of course, we can't worry about the public in that respect because, listen, they know two things: who's the quarterback and who's the head coach. And we're either going to praise them or we're going to blame one of them.
That's right.
And that's it. And then, they don't even know who the offensive line is. Oh, the offensive line stinks. They don't know which one or whoever. And I understand. It's a complicated game with a lot of people, but.
Right.
You know, that point you made, Paul, I felt like I was one of the Three Stooges. I was getting slapped across the face back and forth as he was just – it's a great, great selling point. My other point being, which I think I said on CBS this year on a Sunday, I said sooner or later, I don't want to say collusion, but it's got to get to a point where everybody doesn't have to be the highest paid player. I know you've kind of said this recently, Christopher. You're right. Oh, so this guy was signed last year, and this guy we're talking about this year, he's somewhat comparable, so we got to pay him more than the guy last year.
Right.
And I never understand that logic. And look, it's hard not to point to him.
Yeah.
But New England never fall into that trap.
Yes.
Hey, thank you. Great job. You were here for a couple Super Bowls. Good luck where you go.
Right.
Trent Brown, you were great. Go. We're not paying you.
Right.
Trey Flowers, man, you were really an underrated player that got no publicity, who I was always trying to sell. And, hey, great. Good luck. We'll see you. We'll see how it works down there.
Yeah, that's right. They're not going to pay anybody 5 years, $90 million. That's just not going to happen. That's not
because they want numbers.
Right.
And we can teach them. And it's not only the numbers, it's the versatility once again. And that's what the league is turning into. And if you don't build your team that way, to have some give and I'll keep going back to that word, then I think you're wrong. I think your chances of success go down greatly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so here's the next thing. I know you got something to say about Blake Bortles and the Rams. You've been telling me this for 2 damn weeks now. I don't know what it is because I keep telling.
It's nothing great. Listen,
so,
but
I want to hear your logic because they signed him to be the backup quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams, and and I want to hear what you got to say about it.
Well, look, I know how you went through the Blake Bortles thing, and I know that you didn't feel great about it and all that, and I understand. But once you kind of say something and you over-exaggerate, well, then you have to back it up. So you went through a year of hell trying to keep going down that list. So, I mean, hell, it was unwatchable. Okay, here's number 32. Oh, my God. No wonder nobody will talk to me in the NFL, son. Oh, well, that's a good thing because I don't care anyway. But Blake Bortles, I thought there was a chance that nobody would sign him. I did. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And the Rams did it, and because they always want to be in the hunt. So think about this. He's got experience, so there's no doubt about that.
Yep.
He is one big dude. He's the kind of guy standing in the bar room, you just like, hey, I'll pick a fight with anybody in here. I'm not picking one with him.
Yeah.
So he's mobile. He's a good runner with the football. So those are some things to start with. What do they do out there? They throw a lot of screens. They throw play actions, probably his 2 good things. A lot of boots, moving the quarterback. That's going to help him.
That's right.
And then the other thing is, he's a good lobber of the ball. If you let him just lob the ball in long passes, he usually throws those pretty well.
Yep.
And that's kind of what they do with their deep crossers. They're not rocket shots across the field.
You're right.
Just get a little rhythm. I'm sure that they're going to try to get that fixed a little bit and everything, and just teach him the rhythm of throwing. And Paul, you know that there's a rhythm, a bounce, a turn, a throw, all this. He doesn't do that. It's like, oh, let me do one, and oh, hell, here comes two, and oh my God, what comes next?
You think they can teach him that?
What can you teach him?
Yeah.
You look.
You can
I
help
want to
it
be
along.
an Olympic sprinter, but you can't. I can get all the teaching in the world, and when that gun comes off, my ass is still coming in last. Okay, so with throwers, you got to be born to throw, and then you can refine it and make it much, much better. So where his ability, if he ever gets to the finished product where it's going to be, I don't know. It definitely won't be a top 10 thrower in the league, but I do believe that you can change him and make him a better thrower of the football. I just believe that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I believe that too. He gets the right guy around him that can teach him a few things. It can certainly.
Look,
and the points you made are great, Dad.
I took Paul Burmeister back here on a baseball field,
right,
and wore his ass out.
Yes.
Excuse me, I don't mean to keep saying that word, but he got better and better, and I'm going, man, Paul can throw it. That was pretty awesome. It was a lot of fun. So if we can do that with him, Paul probably was going, wish I'd have known this in college.
It's true. I've said that many times. I think I was like 42 or 43 then. I was looking to sign as a free agent, be a camp arm after that worked out.
Well, I tell people this, just show you how far throwing's come, and this is the truth, and I don't know if my son will back me up or not. When I was 55, I could throw the ball harder than I could when I came in as a rookie in the NFL.
Yes.
I've been on the other end.
You could still hum it right now. Now, what he's going to say is it might only be for 10 throws, but yes, Dad's fastball was never an issue. And to his point, what he's saying is he learned a lot at the end of his career throwing the football, and he's learned more since his career has been over. To where he's learned the techniques to be more efficient, to really load your body up, to really uncork it.
Man, there's nothing like what quarterback. And three of us here, what quarterback doesn't want to throw it harder?
Right.
I mean, there's nobody. Every quarterback I throw with, I said, look, I know you want to throw it hard, but you don't have to throw it just as hard as you can every throw. Because these certain kids I throw with, they got that ability. Just every ball. I'm just like, man, Rocket Man. Sometimes you got to put a little touch on it. Right. But every quarterback wants to be able to rip it. Because why? Because there's tight windows. And you and I had this conversation, Christopher.
Right.
I love it. Oh, it's overrated. Yeah. No, it's not. Arm strength is not overrated. You're crazy and wrong to say it, because having the strength to throw a short pass, Paul, maybe over the middle, by putting a little extra juice on it, gives the receiver that extra little bit of time, less time for the defense to react, and all of a sudden, instead of getting a 15-yard across the field gain, because of that timing and the speed of the ball, he breaks everything and takes it for a touchdown. We can't quantify that.
Right.
But I can when I watch it and talk about him, because I know.
Right.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. And I say this to receivers all the time I meet them. They want the football, they want spirals, and they want speed to get it, because they want that football in their hands, because they know a split second is the difference in big plays and 7-yard gains.
That's right. I still stand in the backyard now. I think my neighbors think I'm crazy. I'm trying to perfect that technique where instead of stepping and throwing at the same time, you step and lean back. It's still not quite natural.
Yeah, you got to create the opposites. Yeah, you got to.
I'm still working on it though.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I saw Major League Baseball Network yesterday, and they were going through this thing about hitting. And I forgot who it was. I didn't know the one guy. Al Leiter was the other, just sitting there listening. And they were talking about their right foot in the ground, a right-handed batter. Putting the knee, how important it was for the knee to be inside the right foot. And then they went on and on. I said, well, dang, he's doing my quarterback clinic here. And, it was really interesting, creating leverage and doing all that. That's what it's about.
Right.
And, of course, you see that with baseball hitters. They brace, they step, they turn their shoulder back, upper body against their legs, and that's why they are hitting it, because they're great specimens, and that's why they're hitting the baseball 450 feet like every single night. Right. It's pretty amazing.
All right, we got last thing here for the big guy.
We didn't get into a couple things, but go ahead.
Well, it's all right.
Why are the Oakland Raiders? I'll even start it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah. Why are the Oakland Raiders working out quarterbacks and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Well, Hey, because they want everybody out there. They're trying to make them think that they might take a quarterback, and will somebody move up and give us their first-round draft pick that's not far behind us and get their guy, if it's Dwayne Haskins or Drew Lock or whatever. That's why they're doing it. They're not going to draft a quarterback. I mean, come on. If they do, then, well, I don't want to be too cruel.
Then they're stupid is what you want to say.
It's just unfathomable. There's no way they can do it. Why are the New York Giants talking about, we're going to give Eli Manning an extension? It makes me think, they maybe are going to take a quarterback. And I think they will, maybe in the first round. Will they do it with the sixth one? I don't know. They could. But I think when they talk like that, that's just to throw everybody off in case the guy the Giants want, somebody knows that they want that same guy, they got to move in front of them.
Yeah, right.
So
Makes
they're trying
sense.
to disarm people. That's when I hear that, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yep.
Oh, out of nowhere. Well, we might give Eli a 2-year extension. Well, what happened here? Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
So to me, that makes me think, hey, is there a guy that really catches their eye that they want to make sure somebody doesn't move up to the 5th pick or to the 4th with the Oakland Raiders, who will be willing to trade that, I think, to gather, more talent.
Right.
Yeah, more stuff, so that can happen. So those are 2 things I wanted to get off my chest.
Okay, that's good. That was really good, and I think that's actually a really good thought about the Giants because, I mean, it's reverse psychology time. And
cynical right now.
You're right. If they're sitting at 17, and let's just say for lack of better, maybe they want Daniel Jones or it's a Drew Lock. Your dad's right. Mm-hmm. Teams might go, well, the Giants don't seem too hot on these quarterbacks. We don't need to worry about them and trade up in front of them, whatever it may be. So good job by you there, Inspector Gadget.
And you wanted to ask me one question about the Masters.
Well,
right?
yeah. Well, we want to talk because first of all, you're a champion of food. Okay, all right. This is a guy that can eat. We've had Brian Burns, defensive lineman for the Florida State Seminoles, come on. He's been putting on weight. He eats about 6 meals a day.
I heard it. It was great.
Right. I thought of you because you're like a 2 breakfast, 2 dinner kind of guy. Okay. But if you could, no problem, Dad. If you could go and win the Masters, okay, and they had that, amazing dinner that they had last night on April 9th, where the previous champion gets to have any meal he wants and a little setting out on the golf course, which truly looks like magical. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
What would your meal be? And I don't want like health food, 63-year-old man food right now. I want when you're like, if you were in the Masters and you won it when you were 38 years old.
Yes. Well, okay, you're right. Now I eat like can't even say it. It's pitiful. It's disgusting. I can't eat that. It has a carb in it or whatever. I don't quite live to it that tight, but it's just be an example. All right, it would be. Let's just say I'm 30 years old. I would have brought my mother down, and I would have made fried chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy that you could drink. It was so good. Green beans that she had picked herself the summer before and canned them probably, and they were just great. So that and homemade biscuits, nothing like it. They were great. I mean, they were. I took a coaching staff up here in northern New Jersey down there, and we had this dinner, and they were all going, these are some Italian guys, everything. Man, I said, yeah, I told you it was good. And then we would have a double dessert. We would have pecan pie, and then we would have blackberry cobbler, which was just off the chart. So I'd have them both. And, of course, we would have them hot and with some ice cream on top of them because, hell, if we're going to go there, we got to go.
Wait, so let me just clarify this, though. Okay, so you're going to bring your mom down not to enjoy the dinner with you, but she's going to cook the dinner in the clubhouse somewhere? That's what you're going to do to your mom?
Wait. Who are you kidding? My mom would be overjoyed.
Right.
And, I used to, when we were given that Iron Man award out in Thanksgiving, she would cook little mini pecan pies, and she made the cobbler and everything, and people, Peyton Manning and them, you know how it is after game.
Yeah.
It would go in the locker room, and there would be spoons, and guys were just going, oh, my, and they were just killing it.
Yeah.
And every year, we would have a guy drive to Kentucky, load up the whole car with stuff she made, and drive it to Dallas or Detroit to bring all that food.
Yep.
So, and my mom every year, well, Phil, you want me to cook, don't you? And I said, yes, Mom. We'll send Jimmy Hatter, the guy with the orange gloves and the sidelines, would drive there and pick it up and do it. So that's what I would serve at the Masters.
Well done.
You got to do it on Tuesday because it'll take you Wednesday to digest it all.
Yeah, I bet. All right, Dad. Thanks
Have
as
a great
always.
day, guys.
You the man.
Good to talk to you.
You the man. See ya.
Be good. See ya. Oh man, some Barbara Sims right there. Barbara is the person
still
that is. Well, no, she is not with us any longer. But she's the person that's responsible for the Sims being athletes. Really, I mean, Grandpa Sims was a good athlete, but he didn't have size. Barbara Sims, woo,
That's
Barbara.
the one.
Barbara's the reason Phil's 6'3", 245. Barbara could have Barbara was 5'10", 5'11", had hands like a middle linebacker in the NFL. I know my family loves when I talk about this, and my dad's always like, my poor mom's rolling over in the grave with you saying this.
Yeah.
But I used to get on her too, but she was awesome. And she was old school. She'd cook dinner. I mean, the stories about her ripping chickens' heads off on the farm growing off, like just one of those type, no nonsense.
Sounds like an Iowan.
Yeah, right.
What other podcasts can you hear about defensive tackles, hamstrings, and grandma's hand?
You're right. Hey, it's hence the word unbuttoned. Okay, there we go. Good stuff today.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of stuff. My goodness.
Yeah, we've been going at it here.
Hanging out here talking ball for a while.
I know.
Yeah.
Hope everybody enjoyed it. That's the Wednesday podcast. Love the interaction. You know that. Get back at me on my defensive line rankings. You want to ask me questions about anybody like that, players I've evaluated in the past, please. I welcome it on Twitter @CSimsQB, Instagram @SimsUnbuttoned. If you want to watch two handsome guys hanging out in Central Park at NBC, youtube.com/NBC Sports. But for Paul Burmeister, you the man. Thanks as always. Thanks for driving the ship. We'll talk to you. Peace out, homie. See ya. Say goodbye. Say goodbye.
Goodbye. See ya. Nod in my head. Giving the nonverbal. Not helping the people who are listening to the podcast.
Yo, what's up? Come on, man. Subscribe on YouTube to Chris Sims Unbuttoned Podcast. I need you. Please hit the subscribe button, please.